Today, we're going to talk about the 11th and final episode on Surah Al-Maaidah. We'll start from verse 109, which says, "On the day when Allah will gather the messengers and say, 'What response were you given?' They will say, 'We have no knowledge.' Indeed, you alone are the knower of the unseen." So what does this mean? Simply put, the scholar says that this verse contains a command to act. There is an implied command at the beginning. What is this implied command at the start? It is beware. So it was supposed to be, "And beware the day when Allah will gather the messengers, pay attention, and say, 'What response were you given?' They will say, 'We have no knowledge.' Indeed, you alone are the knower of the unseen." He is saying that this command, beware, is actually omitted. What does it mean that it's omitted? Okay, so Allah asks them. He asks the prophets on the day of judgment, gathers them, and asks them both, saying, "What was the response of your people to you when you told them or asked them to believe in me, worship me, and obey me? How did they answer you? What did they say to you?" What was their response? Your people's response. That's the verse. That's the meaning. So they reply and say, "We don't know. We have no knowledge." We don't know why. Because of the shock, the sheer terror and horrors of the day of judgment. They said, "We don't know." Even the prophets themselves, because of the terror of that great day. What is it as well? Yeah, they're not in full or complete awareness and consciousness. So they say, "We have no knowledge," but then they go back and answer, "What?" Then they testified to what their peoples had answered after their minds returned to them. The source here is Jani al-Bayan fi Tafsir al-Quran by Al-Tabari. These are exactly my questions. If God is going to gather the messengers on the day of judgment and will question the messengers on that day, how can the past tense be used? They said, it's in the past tense. The second question is, didn't God already know the answers of their peoples? So why would he ask them? And if he did know, then why is he asking? That's verse 110, when God said, "O Jesus, son of Mary, remember my favor upon you and upon your mother when I supported you with the Holy Spirit. So you spoke to people in the cradle and in maturity. And when I taught you the book and wisdom and the Torah and the gospel, and when you fashioned from clay the shape of a bird by my permission, then you breathed into it, and it became a bird by my permission. And you healed the blind and the leper by my permission. And when you brought forth the dead by my permission, and when I restrained the children of Israel from you when you came to them with clear proofs, but those who disbelieved among them said, 'This is nothing but obvious magic.'" This verse here, in a very brief summary, is rebuking the Christians because, why? Because they claim that Jesus is a God, and that God has taken a wife and has a son. So this verse is responding to that claim. That's it, period. Right here as well. Did this conversation, or even the reaction from God to the claim of the Jews, actually happen? Did this really happen? Or is this conversation going to take place on the day of judgment? Because what does it say? It says, God said, "O Jesus." So did God say this? Or is he going to say it on Judgment Day? Honestly, the scholars didn't make this very clear. 111. Here, Is he talking about himself? Or, and when he said, or anything like that? Here it is. And when I revealed, I am God. Its next part. Explain how pronouns move in these verses so I can understand. When God said, "Oh Jesus," it's God himself speaking. And when God said, then he goes back in verse 111. That was verse 110. Then in verse 111, the one right after, he goes back and says, and when I revealed, I am God. When he said, he is God. And when I revealed, I am God. This is how the pronoun shifts. So, this is what I follow. Sometimes he uses the third person, and sometimes the first, to talk about himself. That was the question. Go back to verses 110 and 111 from Surah Al-Maaidah and tell me, what do you think? And when I inspired the disciples to believe in me, not in God, but to believe in me and in my messenger, they said, we believe and bear witness that we are Muslims. See, when he wants to talk about himself, he uses the present pronoun. Anyway, what's the meaning here? The meaning is that God. The commentator says, not me. He says inspired, not revealed. God himself is saying, and when I inspired the disciples. So pay attention. God didn't just inspire the messengers, but he also inspired the disciples around Jesus as well, or the helpers, you know. Call them whatever you want. All right. The meaning is that God inspired. Pay attention to the scholar's wording. He inspired the disciples by instilling faith in their hearts in him and in his messenger. So that's one interpretation. The second interpretation, God didn't inspire disciples directly, but Jesus, who conveyed it to them. They said, "O Jesus, bear witness, we've affirmed our faith in God and the messenger." Source, Bar al-Ulum by al-Samarkandi. Questions, is revelation to disciples inspiration? We need clear boundaries between revelation and inspiration, because this is a very important point that really caught my attention in the scholar's words. Very good, meaning al-Samarkandi. All right, and I mean, if the verse itself says, and when I inspired the disciples, what's the difference between God's revelation to disciples and to messengers? Second question, believe in me and my messenger. If it said, believe in me and in what I've sent down to my messenger, I'd understand. But believe in me and in my messenger means we believe in two, God and his messenger. The messenger has died. That messenger was just one person. His only mission was to deliver the message. He was someone who used to go to the bathroom like anyone else. How am I supposed to believe in him? Faith should be in God alone and nothing else. 112. When the disciples said, "O Jesus, Son of Mary, can your Lord send down to us a table from heaven?" He said, "Fear God, if you are truly believers." All right, there are 3 points here. The first point is the recitation. The recitation was read by Ali ibn Abi Talib and Aisha bin Abi Bakr, the Prophet's wife, and Ibn Abbas and Mujahid used to recite it. Is it can you, not can you? Is it can your Lord, not your Lord? The meaning, the disciples are speaking to Jesus. Can you ask your Lord to send down for us a table of food from heaven? You get it? So Jesus said to them, "Fear our Lord and don't ask questions that no people before you have asked." That was the meaning of the verse. Very simply, what's the source? It's Malam al-Tanzil by al-Baghawi. The question's here, folks. Did the disciples, when they asked Jesus to ask his Lord to send down a table of food from heaven? Was this question or request from the disciples out of their own free will, or was it by God's will? Actually, I have one last question about verse 112. Who is the speaker? Because if I keep asking about every verse, I'll become annoying. So pay attention to who the speaker is in verses 112, which we just mentioned, 113, and then 14, 15, 16. Who is the speaker in these verses? It always says, he said, they said, he said, they said. So who is speaking here? Is it God saying, God said, or is he quoting them? In verse 113, let me read it. In 113, they said, we want to. Jesus said in the previous verse, don't ask questions no one before you ever asked. But they replied to him, saying, we want to eat from it, and for our hearts to be reassured, and to know that you have told us the truth, and to be among its witnesses. Okay, so it's God who is saying, they said. God is quoting the disciples' words in the Quran. We're just trying to understand. This is a conversation between Jesus and the disciples. He is telling them, and they are asking him, who is conveying these words? Who is saying, he said, they said? Verse 112. When the disciples said, O Jesus, send a table. Don't ask. No one before you has asked. Then in verse 113, they say, no, we want it. They told him, we want to eat from it so our hearts will be reassured, and so we can be among the witnesses and testify that you are a prophet and testify to God's power. So who is it that's saying this? In verses 13, 14, 15, and 16, these questions in verse 113 is the recitation. Al-Maaidah recited it as and to learn, not and so we know. Let me read it to you again. They said, we want to eat from it, and for our hearts to be reassured and to know. Al-Maaidah used to recite it as and to learn with a ta, not with a noon. The meaning. What's the meaning? Jesus asked the disciples to fast for 30 days. So when they completed it, whatever they asked from God, he would grant it. All right, fine. They fasted for 30 days, then said, we're hungry, so ask your Lord to send down a proper table spread full of food, so we can eat. And also so we can be reassured that God really sent us a prophet. When you ask him and he responds to you, that would mean you truly are sent from him. He heard what you said. The point is, we can testify to God, to your prophethood, and to his power, so let him send us something proper, you get it? Anyway, that was the meaning of the verse. Who's the source here? Zad al-Mazir fi ilm al-Tafsir by Ibn al-Jawzi, page 114. Jesus, son of Mary, said, O Allah, our Lord, send down to us a table from heaven to be a festival for us and a sign from you. Provide for us, for you are the best of providers. But they said to him, no, ask your Lord to send down a table for us. So there you have it. I mean, they basically pressured God. He asked God to send down a table. So what does that mean? Jesus prayed to his Lord to send down a table. God answered, sending down the table with 7 fish, 7 loaves of bread, vinegar, salt, pomegranates, and honey. Fruit was also present. The table consisted of these items: not lambs or similar things. It was just fish, that's it. And by the way, that table would have suited me because I don't eat meat. I only eat fish. All right. God answered. Jesus said, "Eat." They said, "No, you first." He said, "Eat, you asked for it." They replied, "No, we're not taking the test." He told them, "Fine, sleep, God willing, since you didn't eat." When they refused, Jesus called the poor, many, about 1,300 people. He told them, "Come, eat. If sick, God healed. If poor, God made rich." Everyone who ate from that table, that's what happened. My friend, God said to him, when the number of people increased from 1,300 to 7,000, when someone hears about it, he tells his neighbor, so they come to eat. God inspired Jesus. He told him, "Oh, Jesus, make this table for the poor, not the rich." He told him, "Don't store or take it home. Just eat there." And the table would wait. But they disobeyed, and each one started filling his pockets and leaving. So when they disobeyed his command, God lifted the table with the fish and everything on it, and all was gone. Anyway, sir, when the table was lifted, the disbeliever said to him, "You're not a prophet." You see, the disbelievers. They told him, "You're not a prophet. You don't know anything about prophethood. That's it, you know." So God said, "Whoever doubts the prophethood of Jesus, I will punish him." But still, they kept doubting just as they were. So those disbelievers, there were 33 of them who doubted the prophethood of Jesus. Anyway, when they went to sleep, they woke up in the morning as pigs, because, as God said, "I will punish them," and they were eating from, well, filth. That was the meaning of the verse. This meaning appears in verse 60 of Surah Al-Maaidah, episode 6. I said it word for word, exactly the same as there. The episode Islam spread by the sword. If you search YouTube, you'll find it and hear me saying the same thing. The meaning of this verse is repeated there exactly as it is here. Verse 114, its meaning, and I have no questions about 114 or 115. God said, keep in mind that earlier he said, when I revealed it, meaning himself, and that they should believe in me and my messenger. Here in 115 he says, God said, I am sending it down. So who is saying this? God. God himself is saying, God said, you see? Anyway, God said, I am sending it down to you. But whoever among you disbelieves after this, I will punish him with a punishment that I will not inflict on anyone else in the world. All right. What's the meaning here? There are 3 opinions about the meaning here. It's a nice point God sent down the table. Why? Because he says God said I am sending it down. So he sent it down. That's the first opinion. The second opinion says that God decided to punish those who asked for the table if they didn't believe in him, even without the table being sent down or anything. You see? So they backed down from asking for the table to be sent down, and as a result, it wasn't sent. That's the second opinion. The third opinion says no, God did send down the table, and on it was a fish, just one fish, not a reputation, a grilled fish, and 5 loaves of bread, one with honey, one with olives, one with ghee, one with cheese, and one with meat. Honestly, what is this? Okay, who is the scholar here? Or what's the source? The source is Reflections on the Quran by Sheikh Muhammad Metwali al-Sharawi, verse 115 from Surah Al-Maaidah. That was his opinion, you see, and he brought 3 opinions on the subject, which is very good. So here again, the question is, who is the one speaking on behalf of God in the verse? Who is the one saying, when God said, I will send it down, God said? Who is saying that? God. That was the question. The second question, according to which of al-Sharawi's 3 opinions was the table sent down or not? That was my question. One opinion says it was sent down. Another says it wasn't. That's my opinion. And the third opinion is that it was sent down with a grilled fish on it. And I don't know why it wasn't fried, honestly. And 5 loaves. A loaf with honey, a loaf with olives, a loaf with ghee, a loaf with cheese, and a loaf with meat. God. All right, fine. Are we going with the idea it was sent down the table? If he's saying he set it down, that was the question in verses 115 and 116 when God said, all right, so who is speaking now? When God said, God. When? And when God said, O Jesus, Son of Mary, did you say to the people, take me and my mother as 2 gods besides God? He said, O Jesus of Beirut, glory be to you. It is not for me to say what I have no right to say. If I had said it, you would have known it. You know what is within myself, and I do not know what is within yourself. Truly, you are the knower of the unseen. The meaning here is that on the day of judgment, God, pay attention here. This is also an important point. Are you following? He is using the past tense when he said, but the event is still going to happen on the day of judgment. We use, how can it say he said? I don't get it. It hasn't happened. It says he said. On Judgment Day, God questions Jesus. Pay attention. While who made him and his mother into gods, Christians are present. He brings them, you, your mother, and bring the Christians, angels involved in this scene. All right, they bring them, and then he asks, did you tell these people that you and your mother are 2 gods besides me? So Jesus replies, by God, I didn't say that. You see, did you tell the people to take you and your mother as 2 gods? So Jesus says, glory be to you. I would never say what I have no right to say. I didn't say it, and if I had said it, pay attention, you would know. If I had said that, me and my mother are 2 gods, you know what I conceal, and I do not know what you conceal, and you are the knower of all unseen things. All right. So the source here is asking, the very source I'm about to tell you about now is asking, why did God ask this question when he already knows that Jesus didn't say that? The source answers, saying it's to rebuke the Christians. God doesn't ask because he doesn't know. God asks in order to rebuke them in front of Jesus and his mother. You get it? All right. And so that Jesus himself affirms his servitude to God. So the Christians hear their God admitting his servitude to God, right? That way, it exposes their lie against him that he never commanded them to do that. He never told them that he and his mother are 2 gods or anything like that. All right, very good. So who is the source here? The source here is Malam al-Tanzil by al-Baghawi. The real question here is, who is it? Who is speaking about God and about Jesus? Because it's him. Read the 2 verses. Honestly, I don't want to make any claims. And when God said, O Jesus, and then Jesus, you, O Jesus, did you? Yes. Did you say to the people, take me and my mother, pay attention, as 2 gods besides me? He said, glory be to you. It is not for me to say what I have no right to say. If I had said it, you would have known it, Pay attention, and the rest of the verse. So one is saying God said, and another is saying Jesus said. So who is the one narrating about both of them? The second question is, doesn't God know whether Jesus claimed divinity for himself and his mother or not? Well, if he knows, then why is he asking? Is he asking just to rebuke the Christians? He could rebuke them without asking. The question itself is not appropriate regarding God because he already knows the matter. Anyway, the truth is, honestly, from between the lines, I feel that Jesus' answer is more logical than God's question. That's the truth, really, because he's basically saying to him in plain, everyday language, in our modern way of speaking, I didn't say it, and if I had said it, you would know. You get what I mean? So, honestly, I think this issue really needs a completely new perspective. And then here, if this whole conversation is supposed to happen on Judgment Day in the first place, that's actually the third question. If none of this has even happened yet, then how does the verse use the past tense verb? It says, Jesus said. So I just don't get this part. Did Jesus already say this? No, he hasn't said it yet. He's going to say it, you see. He's going to say it on Judgment Day, the day when everyone is gathered. He'll tell the angels, bring me Jesus and his mother, put them here. Bring me the Christians, put them here. Did you tell your mother and your people that you and your mother are two gods? No, I didn't say that, by God, my Lord. You know, if I had said it, you would know. That never happened at all. So how is the past tense used here? It says he said, but he hasn't actually said it yet. Honestly, I don't get it. That's the truth. Anyway, verse 117. I only told them what you commanded me, to worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. And I was a witness over them as long as I was among them. But when you took me, you were the one watching over them, and you are a witness over all things. The real meaning here is that Jesus is responding to God, saying, I only told the children of Israel the message you commanded me, to worship you alone. Pay attention, monotheism, he says. Believe in me and my messenger. This is monotheism, the oneness of God, that they worship you and obey you as long as I was among them. Meaning, when you took me and raised me up to you, and my time in this world ended, you are the one watching over them. That's basically the story of the verse. You are the witness to what I said and to what they said. This is the core issue, meaning Jesus is completing his answer to God. Meaning, as for me, I shouldn't be asked this question because it's not my responsibility. I delivered the message you gave me. Nothing more, nothing less. When you caused me to die, when you took my soul, or raised me up to you, in whatever way it happened. And you are the one who watched over them, and you are the one who knows. That was the story. So here, who is being addressed? I only told them what you commanded me to, up until the end of the verse. These are the words of Jesus. Here, the question comes from the original source, even before the question itself. The source is the ocean of knowledge. It's still being poured out. Is God quoting Jesus' words? Is the Quran talking about Jesus? Or is Jesus himself speaking these words in the Quran? I only told them what you commanded me to. Is it God or Jesus who commanded? Jesus. Who is quoting Jesus? God. That was just a question, all right. So, pay attention. Jesus is talking about using the present pronoun. What to say? I, Jesus, only said what you commanded me. I, Jesus, my Lord, which is, I worship God, my Lord. Also using the present pronoun, as long as I am. Are you following? The present pronoun, when you took me, is in the present pronoun. Jesus is speaking about himself using the present pronoun. So God will speak about himself using the third person pronoun. Logically and rationally, I mean. Anyway, that was verses 117 and 118. If you punish them, Jesus continues, if you punish them, they are your servants. And if you forgive them, surely you are the Almighty, the wise. The meaning, they say, and they claim we are gods. I never told them, nor my mother, that we are two gods. If you punish them, I say, they are your servants, the children of Israel. Fine, but if you forgive them, then you are the Almighty, the wise. So what does it mean? If you punish them, it's because they remained in their disbelief. And if you forgive them, it's because they repented and returned to what? To the right path. So that's basically the meaning. The source here is Majma al-Bayan fi Tafsir al-Quran by the Tabarusi. Page 119. He said, God said. Did anyone say God said? God himself wouldn't say God said. God said, this is the day when the truthful will benefit. For them are gardens beneath which rivers flow, abiding forever. God is pleased with them, and they are pleased with him. That is great success. The meaning is that those who are truthful in this world will have paradise on the day of judgment. It's that simple. And God, you see, is pleased with them. And pay attention, they will be pleased with what God has rewarded them with. All right, meaning God is pleased with them. But they are pleased with what has come, with what he has given them, with what he has granted them. They are pleased with his blessings upon them. It's that simple, all right. They're not pleased with him personally, no. All right, that was from Fath al-Qadir. The source, Fath al-Qadir by al-Shawkani. So here, who is speaking about God? He says, God said, the pleasure of God. God will say, the pleasure of God. God said 120. To God belongs dominion of heavens and earth and everything in them, and he is capable of all things. The Revelation's reason. Christians' claim of divinity for Jesus. So you make this claim, and it was revealed to confirm Jesus and his mother own nothing, and all dominion and power belong to God. To God belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. Don't tell me Jesus is a God, because if Jesus were a God, then the dominion of the heavens and the earth would belong to him. So that was the reason for the verse's revelation. But all dominion and all power belong to God alone. That was the verse. And here as well, honestly, it's clear, he says, and God will say about himself, and he is capable of all things. I mean, we always. Even our colleague, Mr. Mostafa Hashim, always says that the speaker in the Quran is Gabriel, not God. It's just an opinion we can discuss and talk about. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no problem. And thank you very much for your patience and for bearing with me all this time. And goodbye.